Hi, welcome back. We have all made it to the last week of class. Woohoo! I'm excited for you. So this week, to wrap things up, we're actually going to move into chapter 5 for just a little bit because there's some things in there I really want you to have going forward, which really bring things all together in how we form chords, triads. So as we start this chapter, we still need to review one more thing before we get to what I really want us to get to. And so we're going to talk first about 16th notes again. We've touched on them, but I want to show you again how we have started the semester with a whole note, and we've gradually worked down to shorter and shorter values for notes. So let's put that up here again. If we have a whole note, we know that a whole note gets 4 beats. So then we have below a whole note, we have a half note. A half note gets 2 beats each. And under each half note, we have quarter notes that each get half of this beat, right? And then under that, we have eighth notes. We're just going to have to make the stems in the wrong place, where each quarter note is the same as 2 eighth notes. So we have 4 beats for the whole note, 2 half notes are going to be a whole note, 4 quarter notes are going to be a whole note, and 8 eighth notes. We keep subtracting. So now under eighth notes, I'm going to erase this, because now I want you to see if we have eighth notes, the value that even is twice as fast as an eighth note. So let's see. Let's just put our eighth notes right here with the stems going the wrong way. As we know, at the middle line, the stems are going to start to go down. Okay, so for every eighth note, now we have 16th notes. If we follow our same pattern, how many 16th notes do you think there will be in one eighth note? Correct. We have 2 16th notes. So we have, when we put them together, we have our little bar across, and a 16th note has 2 bars. If we keep them separately, it looks like that. So that's 2 16th notes for every eighth note. So 2 eighth notes equal 1 beat, 1 quarter note. So how many 16th notes are going to equal 1 quarter note? 4 16th notes equal 1 quarter note, correct. 1 quarter note is 1 beat, 2 eighth notes is 1 beat, and now 4 16th notes is 1 beat. So the way that we often count these, we can think of it like this, as all bound together. And the way we count this is 1, E, and A. So if you have 1, E, and A, as you recall with eighth notes, we said 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. With 16th notes, we have this extra one in between, so we're going to count 1 E and A, 2 E and A, 3 E and A, and so forth. So they're going to go twice as fast as an eighth note. Often you will see a particular pattern in pieces where you have the bottom denominator of our time signature, for example, 4-4. If the 4 is in the bottom where the quarter note gets a beat, you'll often see a pattern, excuse me, where you have a dotted eighth note attached to a 16th note, which still is going to equal 1 beat. And if you want to count this out, some people think you can just think of this dotted eighth note as 3 16th notes that are all tied together. I find that confusing. I would just continue. How do we count each 16th note? 1 E and A, 2 E and A. So you can say for this dotted eighth note, 1 E and then this one's going to play on the A. 1 E and A, 2 E and A, 3 E and A, 4 E and A. Okay, so now if you look at your book, just to show how this is going to sound, if you look on page 141 at the German dance, that's number 4, you can see how they have beamed the 4 16th notes together on the first downbeat. And I want to clap this out together, and we'll see how it sounds. If we give our quarter note beat as 1, 2, 1, 2, it will be 1 E and a 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 E and a 2 and 1 and 2. 1 E and a 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 E and a 2 and 1 and 2. I really want you to do that. I really think it's a great idea for you to clap that out so you can start to get the feel of 16th notes and see how they're often beamed together in time signatures where the 4 is in the bottom. While you're on that piece, you may as well go ahead and play it and look at how many sharps it has, decide what that key signature is going to be by thinking of going up a half step from the last sharp. Look at the last note of the piece. See if you're in a major key or a minor key by looking at the last note and seeing if that note E going to be the tonic. Most likely it will. Look at your key signature and see if that follows. And then I do want you to look at page 146 at the rhythm studies. I highly encourage you to practice this rhythm study, as you may strongly see this piece on a further exam that might not be too far from now. So I'm going to go over it with you, and I am very serious that I think it would be a grand idea if you practice these and play along with me so you have these very, very strongly under your belt. All right, number 1. Number 1, 2, 4. 2 beats to the measure, quarter note gets a beat. Let's go. 1, 2, 1, 2. 1, 2, 1 and 2 and 1, 2 E and a 1, 2. Okay, you're next. It's on you next. Number 2, 3, 8. 8th note gets a beat. 3 beats in a measure. We often feel it in 1. We'll do this one a little bit slower. Ready, go. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2 and 3. 1, 2 and 3. 1 and 2 and 3. 1 and 2 and 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, in that one we ran across something that did not seem to apply or follow what I said, because I was counting my 16th notes as 1 and 2 N. Why is that? Because the 8th note got the beat. It got the beat like a quarter note when the 4 is in the bottom. So if an 8th note gets the whole beat, then the note value less than that, half of that, is going to now be like the 8th note counting in 1 and 2 and 3 N. So you have to remember to look at what is the denominator of your time signature. If that's confusing, please talk to me about that when we each individually speak. But it's very important to look at what the bottom number is of the time signature. Okay, the last one has the example where we have that dotted 8th note attached to a 16th note. So let's try this one slowly too. Number 3 is 3/4 time. Okay, here we go. 1, 2, go. 1, 2 E and a 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2 E and a 3. 1, 2, 3. Now, I will also tell you, sometimes when I'm playing something and there's a lot of syncopation, which is what we call it when you have these dotted values attached to values of notes less than that, I often count, instead of counting my quarter note as 1, I will break my quarter note and say 1 E and a, for the quarter note because it helps me stay consistent all the way through. So if I did that in number 3, it would look like this. 1E and a 2E and a 3. 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a. That really makes it easier for me to be counting in my mind and out loud instead of having to go back and forth between 1, 2E and a 3 and and I just break it down to the smallest value. All right, so that's good for that, and that's good for this video. See you next time. Bye.